Thursday, September 17th, 2020, and the time is 6:30 p.m. The meeting of the City of Greensburg Redevelopment Commission is called to order. At this time, if everybody would silence your electronic devices, and we'll all stand, we'll begin our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. To comply with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the city requests that participants in this meeting complete a voluntary anonymous survey that is available on the table in the back of the room. Judy, would you conduct a roll call, please?
Mark Ballard.
Present.
Ken Dorrance.
Present.
J.D. Humper.
Present.
Darrell Foley. Adam Winslow.
Present.
Dave Weigel.
Present. Next thing we need to do, we need to amend our agenda, and we're going to get a couple updates from Reedy Financial Group. What I would like to do is amend our agenda, and after Mr. May does, we are in a little discussion about our secretary, then I'd like to have Reedy make our presentation then. Is there a motion to amend the agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Ken. Mr. Dornick. Motions, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Adam. Those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Next item, approved minutes of our August 20th, 2020 meeting. Everybody has a copy of the minutes, hopefully has time to review. Are there any corrections to the minutes? If there are not any corrections to the minutes, they will stand approved as presented. Moving on to old business. Mr. May, city engineer, would you give us an update of project status for Veterans Way Phase 2, please?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm honored to stand here tonight and report to you that yesterday was the groundbreaking ceremony for the commencement of construction for Phase 2. Many of you were there. We had a pretty good turnout. I think a really fine event. We were fortunate enough to have literally all of our partners there. NDOT had represented there. Structure Point had several. Milestone was there. We had representation from the board, from our board of works, from the council, and of course the mayor. So it was really good. Their plan is to start work as soon as they get approval of their stormwater prevention plan from NDOT. They're thinking early next week. They're planning on starting working at the new intersection of Broadway with Veterans Way. They want to get that work done so they maintain continuity of travel into and out of Lakewood Apartments. And there's also some private water line work behind First Financial going over towards Burger King, and they're planning on getting that done. And then after that, they are probably going to head over to the west end and start clearing and those sorts of things. There are a few trees that have to be cut, and there is bat habitat restriction that ends on October the 1st. They have about 2 weeks before they cut any trees, but they do have work that can go forward, and I think we'll soon see true progress. So that is all pretty exciting.
The east end probably won't see much construction until after the first of the year, till
Next spring,
when the warm weather comes back.
Like I said, they want to work on that water line, but the plan is to not disrupt that area until they're going to position work when they get going. They said they may put there is some temporary pavement that goes in on the First Financial side of what's now the driveway, and I think they're going to try to get that in this fall. So there'll just be extra pavement in there until spring, and then they'll start moving traffic around so they can finish the rest of the work. questions?
Any questions?
Exciting to be moving forward.
Yes, you know, the project has had a few stumbling blocks, and we've overcome all of those. Now we're to the point where the stumbling block should be much less. Anytime you dig around in the ground, you can find something you didn't anticipate. But the probability of something catastrophic is, I think, behind us.
Good. How about an update on planning services for our capital improvement plan?
As we discussed last month, we solicited proposals from 4 different planning firms and received statements of interest from 3 of the 4. We had one from Taylor, Siefker, and Williams. We had one from HWC Engineering, and we had one from American Structure Point. And I have those here, and Ken also has copies of them. If anybody cares to look through them, they're available. The scoring committee, which consisted of Sarah Hamer, Ken Dornick, Brian Robbins, and myself, went through them and scored the 3 proposals that we received. Our scoring system was simply to rank in order of preference individually, my first choice, second choice, third choice, and so the 4 of us did that. And then, so the lower the number, the better. And when we added up the 4 scores, American Structure Point scored a 4, Taylor, Siefker, Williams scored a 9, and HWC scored an 11. So the clear winner is American Structure Point. It is the scoring committee's recommendation to you that you select American Structure Point to do the study. Assuming you do select them, the next order of business is to negotiate a scope of services and a fee. Scope of services is really pretty much defined through the requirements of the Indiana State Department of Health. So it's a matter of negotiating a fee. In the interest of time, we have to have this done by June 30 of 2021. In a conversation I had with Pete Fritz with the Department of Health, they had earlier told us they thought we'd have an agreement by the end of September with the state. I think that's slipping a little bit more. Not based on any real fact, but just that conversation, I'm thinking the middle of October might be pretty good. But considering that we have to make that last date, and we're maybe gonna get a little later start yet, my recommendation to you is that you authorize the mayor to negotiate an agreement with American Structure Point. You may want to set a cap on how much. I think the study would come in for less than $30,000. So my recommendation to you would be to authorize the mayor to negotiate and when appropriate, sign an agreement with American Structure Point up to, you pick a number, but $30,000.
Right here.
Your motion should select them. And it could also, or you could do it 2 separate motions.
One more thing,
I think one motion's fine. I'd be okay saying a motion to select and negotiate not to exceed dollar amount.
I'll make a motion that we select American Structure Point for the study and we negotiate an amount for the scope of work. Authorize the mayor to negotiate
And sign.
the scope of work. And sign? And so we're adding stuff on, anything else? And sign.
Wait, do you want to spend 30,000 of your cash plus the 10,000, or do you want to spend 20,000 cash plus the 10,000?
My thought was the total fee would not exceed 30,000.
So it's
20 plus 10.
20 and
I
10.
like that. We can keep negotiating. I like this.
Yeah.
Scope to be no more than combined 30,000, 20 of our own, and 10 already says that.
And that way, the day that we get the word from the state, the mayor can sign American Structures Point agreement and they can start work. We don't wait on another meeting or lose another week or 3 and that sort of thing.
I have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ken. Any further discussion on the motion? Those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries 4-0.
The other item relative to that project, last month we had identified a steering committee or advisory committee for the study, but at that time we had only identified segments of the population to be on that committee. I can report to you this evening that the Redevelopment Commission member that will be on the steering committee, Ken Dornick, has agreed to do that.
Thank you, Ken.
Plan Commission member Kevin Fleetwood has agreed to serve representing council, or representing Plan Commission, and he would also then represent the city council. Planning Department member Sarah has agreed to serve representing the Planning Department. Economic Development Corporation, Ryan has agreed to serve on the steering committee representing that. The Health and Fitness member, Janine, is that the right pronunciation? Walter from the hospital has agreed to serve. And finally, we had said a resident at large member, and Phil Drywork has agreed to serve that. And in that, this committee has no formal charter or whatever. There may be others as we go along that displays great interest in the process. The more diversity of opinion, the more energy we can instill in this, the better off we're going to be. So there may be others that kind of just attach themselves. I don't know if you need to approve that or not.
I think so.
I thought you already
I
had.
think we already approved it.
Not the individuals, but the categories.
Oh, then I'm sure you do a motion to approve those individuals.
We heard a motion to approve these individuals.
So moved.
Thank you, Adam. Is there a second? Thank you, Ken. Any discussion? Those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries 4-0. While you're there, do you have anything from American Structure Point about our capital improvement plan? Or is there not much to report?
I know that they are working on scoring all of the projects that have been identified, and they're working on putting cost estimates together with those. They are planning to be back next month to present that information to you.
Okay, good. Any questions for the engineer about those?
I skipped over that.
Hearing none of those, let's move on to new business. We are hiring a redevelopment commission secretary. Ms. Judy Kurd.
In your meeting last month, you approved a pay rate of $50 per month. Somewhere in the negotiations, I believe the pay rate ended up being at $60 per month. It was a negotiated rate. But since you all said 50, you're gonna have to beat Judy down $10 a meeting or amend your pay rate agreement.
I would entertain a motion that we amend our pay rate to $60. Thank you, Ken. Adam has a second. Any discussion?
Thanks, Judy.
Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
The other issue,
Motion carries 4-0.
Sorry.
Sorry.
the other issue
Thank you.
is the city salary ordinance has no provision for you to have a secretary. And actually,
That's been rectified. I was trying to get your attention ahead of
well,
time.
you just take this over.
Okay. There was some question as to whether Judy would be contract labor or as an employee of the city. Her position was not added to the budget. It was not added to a salary ordinance for 221 for the redevelopment committee. The IRS would have had a problem. I had a conversation with them that Judy works for another board and gets a W-2 from that board. But you're all under the same umbrella for the federal ID number for the city. Judy will be, can I go ahead with this? Judy plans to have a secretarial business, And so therefore, she will be submitting a claim from her secretarial business, and there will not be an issue of payroll. She will simply receive a 1099 next year, because this year she will not be making the $600 cap. And so, and presumably next year, we'll have her secretarial business up and going, and both entities will be paying. So on a monthly basis, that will be a claim for you to sign, and Judy will be paid through the claim process for our meetings. Do you have any questions on that, Chris? No? Good. All right, any questions from the board?
No.
Jimmy? Nothing? Okay.
Nope. Thank you.
Gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And Jamie, that was.
Thank
I think that next item, thank you, sir. Next item on our agenda is Reedy Financial Group is going to give us an update or two.
Sorry about that. I tried to get you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Gary Smith with Reedy Financial Group, and we had a few things we wanted to go over with you this evening. One of which is a housekeeping item for an annual reporting requirement that came out a few years ago, kind of referred to as the TIF impact. So what kind of impact is the Greensburg Redevelopment Commission? What does it have, or what does it potentially have on the overlapping units? And then also, while we're here, we brought the financial update, so we have that updated that we thought we might just go ahead and go over with you guys at the conclusion of the TIF impact presentation. So we'll just dive right into the TIF impact. I want to preface this with, the TIF impact is kind of misleading in the fact that it kind of assumes that all the assessed value that we're talking about here would have been generated if not for the TIF district. So, if we accept that, the assessed value would have occurred regardless of the TIF incentive and would have came into the base assessments of all the overlapping units, then this impact would be true. Obviously, redevelopment commissions are created for the purpose of incentivizing development and then creating value off of that incentive. So most of the time there is no impact. This is just a very conservative situation, a very conservative scenario of the statute. So I just wanted to preface that before we dive in. And this is I kind of have a TIF 101 discussion. I know a lot of you guys are experts already, but thought we'd just kind of lay some baseline definitions and just go over TIF 101 generally, and then dive into the impacts. So the first page inside the RDC, wanted to just define a few terms differentiating between economic development area or allocation area. I know most of you probably know this. Allocation area would be a geographical boundary that's set up within the city limits, and the parcels identified within that allocation area would be what you would consider your TIF district, what is capturing assessed value on any new construction projects or any new abatement, things to that effect. Then the economic development area oftentimes can be the same as the allocation area or could be bigger. The economic development area is an area in which you would spend monies. So a little bit of a distinction there. If you've ever seen the two and wondered what the difference is, that is the difference. And then finally, TIF, tax increment finance. That's the acronym we all hear. That's just referring to the revenue that we're capturing on that assessed value. So again, if we put parcels in an allocation area and there's a new construction project that goes up, any of that new assessment is going to be captured, and the revenue generated there would be what we call TIF revenue. The next page, why would we want to create a TIF district? Obviously, we would want to just make it our entire community. The goal would be to attract capital investment to the area, attract new residents, promote economic development, allow for redevelopment to be self-funded. Providing a financing tool, I would say is the biggest reason. It truly is a funding source that does not otherwise exist. So it's a good tool in that regard. The next page would be how TIF works. Again, I'm sure you guys have seen this illustration in the past, but essentially how it works is once you sign a declaratory resolution to establish a TIF district, they freeze in time what is known as the base assessed value. So if you placed a parcel in an allocation area this year, and the assessed value on that parcel this year was $100,000. The base assessed value of that would be $100,000, and the taxes on that $100,000 would go towards all the overlapping units, the city, the town, the county, the schools, etc. And then any increases in value on top of that 100 that we can specifically identify as things that we would capture, meaning it's new construction, or it was an abatement roll-off, or conversely destruction would eliminate that value, are things that we can capture. So that's what we're referring to as increase in assessed value from economic development. That would be the blue triangle, incremental AV going to the Redevelopment Commission to pay project costs. So again, new construction projects or abatement roll-offs, that's going to be what kind of trickles this up over time. Then after 25 years from the day they issued debt, that does end up expiring, and all of that assessed value that's currently within the Redevelopment Commission would be released to all the base overlapping units. So this is a good chart and very relevant to the TIF impact, because what we're doing is we're making a huge assumption when preparing this TIF impacts, in that let's just assume that there is no TIF anymore, that all that assessed value goes through to the base, city, town, and county, schools, etc. What would that actually do? You know, there's a lot of misinformation, and we presented for over an hour at AIM a few years ago on this very topic. It's somewhat complicated, but essentially how it works is we would assume all that assessed value gets passed through, and what it would do is not really result in any more levy collections, because here in Indiana there's only a certain number of ways you can collect a levy, a tax levy. So again, your cities, towns, counties, they levy a property tax rate. There's only certain ways they can do that, regardless of what assessed value does. What we're talking about here is changes in assessed value, which has no bearing on how much they actually can levy. So from the levy side, there is no impact whatsoever. Important thing to note there. The next page just goes over some reporting requirements, as you guys know. April 1st, April 15th, June 15th, August 1st. The one we're discussing specifically today doesn't necessarily have a hard any particular deadline throughout the course of the year. It's just sometime during the year we have to give this discussion on all the budget of the RDC, the long-term plans, and then also the TIF impact on each overlapping unit. So diving through some of the reporting requirement items, the overview of the RDC. We have the State Road 3 corridor development allocation area. Start date in year 2000. Back then, it was a 30-year expiration date, so pay 2030 is the expiration. That's what we project. So some information there on when we can expect this to go through. The next page would be just an overall snapshot of your long-term plan for that allocation area. You can see your beginning cash balance, $751,046. Miscellaneous revenues throughout the year, TIF collection, loan draws, miscellaneous revenues, state grants, totaling $2,668,511. And then down in the orange color there, we have all the various capital outlays, debt payments on the 2014 bonds, and then other services and charges, totaling spending of $1,700,394, $968,000 surplus, and then ending cash balance of just over 1.7 million there. As far as the long-term plan goes, Veterans Parkways, the immediate one identified as long-term plan, so what's going on. Moving forward to the next page, circuit breaker correlation. So I kind of prefaced this earlier with, there is no way that any units in Greensburg can be affected on the levy side. It's impossible with how the levies work. So the only way that there could potentially be an impact is what's called circuit breaker. And through doing hundreds of hours of research on this in preparation for our A meeting, what we found was there's a direct correlation with circuit breaker and how much impact there is in your overlapping units. So just looking at this chart, Decatur ranks 28th out of 92. So the higher you rank on this list, the more you're impacting your overlapping units. The fact that Decatur County is in the bottom third means that there's not really much of an impact at all in your overlapping units. In a unit in which there was no circuit breaker, there would be no impact at all. It would be zero. So there's a little bit of impact here in Greensburg, and we'll go over that here on the next page. But one thing I wanted to draw attention to, or an example I wanted to draw out would be how does that actually work? What is circuit breaker? How does that impact what we're talking about here? And the best way that I've been able to describe it, at least in my own mind, is assuming that we have a property tax bill and you're a homeowner. And let's say your home is worth $100,000 and here in Indiana, you have a 1% tax cap. So all things being equal, your TS1, your tax bill that you get annually will be $1,000, no matter what the rates do. So it could be $1,500, could be your tax bill, but because of circuit breaker, you only pay 1%, you only pay $1,000 here in Indiana. So $500 you're not paying, but the city, the town, the county, the school, they're levying $1,500, but they're not collecting that because you're not paying $500 of it. So that $500 you're not paying gets distributed amongst all the overlapping units, because again, they think they're levying it, they're not collecting it because of the circuit breaker caps. In the case of TIF, there's impact that we can quantify. If we were to just eliminate the RDC altogether and all that assessed value were to go into the base, since levies can't be affected, what it would do is it would decrease tax rates just a tiny little bit. And when it decreases those tax rates just a tiny little bit, it impacts what that $1,500, that $500 circuit breaker loss would be. So in this example, let's say that your tax bill was $1,500, you release all the TIF assessed value to all the overlapping units, your tax bill may go down to $1,300, for instance. What that would mean is all the other overlapping units would collect $200 more on an aggregate basis on your tax bill. So that's the circuit breaker loss we're talking about, and that's how this gets quantified, how it gets broken down. So again, in that example, that $200, well, where does that $200 go in our example? We've outlined all your overlapping units. So Greensburg City, Greensburg Community School Corporation, Decatur County, Greensburg Public Library, Decatur County Solid Waste Management, and Washington Townships. Those are all the overlapping units within the city of Greensburg. So basically, if we think about this on a large scale across all parcels, the amount of impacts that you would be received if we were to release the $25 million of assessed value that's currently sitting in the Redevelopment Commission, the $25 million of assessed value would get passed through to the probably north of $1 billion assessed value in the county. Very, very small number. What it would do is it would affect that circuit breaker collection. So what we've quantified is $148,831 is how much more all the other units would collect because of what we're talking about here. And how does that get broken down? Well, you can see the city of Greensburg having the largest tax rate, they would get the majority of the brunt of that. So 54% or 81,000 and change would be the impact for the city. As a percentage of their 2020 budget, 9.7 million, 0.84%. So we're talking about less than a percent there. For the school corporation, 46,617, 31.32% of that 148,000 we discussed. They have a much larger budget, almost 27 million. That is, almost 0.17% for the school corporation of their 2020 budget. So very, very minuscule. Decatur County, $12,240. That's 0.07% of their 2020 budget. Greensburg Public Library, $7,656, and that would be 0.52% of their 2020 budget. Decatur County Solid Waste, $688, 0.13% of their 2020 budget, and then Washington Township is, $38, so kind of quantifiable there. That's a very conservative look at what the impact is. The actual impact is less than that, but just given how big the county is, we kind of have to make some assumptions on the back end and present the most conservative situation. The next part there at the bottom, again, total impact on overlapping units is 148,000. The Greensburg Redevelopment Commission collects 920,000. So if the RDC were to go away, 771,000 less dollars would be collected. So what this is telling, we call this TIF margin, and that's what the point of our presentation to AIM was. By you having assessed value in an allocation area, it is 100% of the time always more efficient to have that assessed value in an allocation area in terms of its ability to collect revenue. In this case, it's 84% more effective. It's actually higher than that, but conservatively 84% more effective being in the allocation area than would be in the base. So that's the impact on each unit. Again, TIF benefits, 84%. And the biggest thing there is, you're collecting 920,000. That's funding projects that would otherwise potentially have to be funded by income tax funds or raises in property taxes, things to that effect. So again, it truly is a new revenue that's not being paid from somewhere else. You're capturing the value on things that you're incentivizing it's functioning exactly as it should, and it's a really good thing. So that's the TIF impacts comprehensive version. If anyone has any questions on any specific piece, I'd be happy to back up and go over any of the details.
Anybody have any questions? Thank you for that, Gary.
I'm gonna have David actually come up and go over the financial report that we have in front of you as well.
So, I'm sure everyone has seen this before. I haven't met everyone yet. I'm David Starkey. Nice to meet everyone. So I'm just gonna run through this real quick with you guys. I know that you've seen it come across your desk. I don't know if you have any questions on it, but just feel free to stop me if you're confused about something or just wanna run through something, get clarification. So just starting on the table of contents, you can see all pages that I'm gonna put you through. Just 10 easy pages. So the very first page is an overview of everyone here, all the members, and I will get our new secretary put on there. And then if you go to lower, you can see our local council and the overlapping units that Gary just discussed there. And lastly, the TIF allocation areas. Right now you just have one area, so that's a overview of that area. You have all the information that you really need on there. You've got your declaratory, your description of the area, which you have one expansion. So one part of your TIF will go up to 2037. So that's just a quick overview of your RDC. Going on to the next page, these are the claims that are being approved at this meeting. So we have 3 claims for $23,000, 406.66. So those are the 3 claims. Does anyone have any questions regarding those claims? All right, we'll move on then. So the next page is simply your monthly cash balance by fund. So this is your TIF fund, the SR3 corridor. And basically through here, you can see what month we're in. We're in September. There's no revenue put for September yet because we will not know that information until we get the reports early on next month. So that number will most likely change. So you can see right now your ending balance after approving these claims is $1,430,764. That is the most recent month. All other months past that are projected. So those are subject to change. On the next page, you can see your breakout of your incremental AV. As we discussed with Gary, you have your base set, and everything past that base is going to be your increment. So that's growth or pavements, sometimes destruction, as you can see. We did your neutralization, and you can see from the original area, it does go down in incremental AV. I believe that was from some destruction of some parcels. If anyone's curious on exactly what that is, I can provide you with that information. But you can see as overall, the total captured increment is going in the right direction. Next year we're going to see roughly 44 million, and that is subject to change as well through abatement or different opportunities that might happen there. All right, on so page 7, we have the overview of the area. It's kind of like what you saw on the presentation, but it's just a bigger expanded version of that, so you can see from years 2018 to projected through 2022. And so going through this, you can see all of your current projects right now. You can see all the grant money that you're receiving from INDOT, from the Veterans Way project. And it's a very loaded page, so if anyone has any questions on that, I'm here to answer. As you can see, we're projecting at the end of 2020 a surplus of 968,000 roughly. So we're headed in the right direction. All right, I'll move on to page 8. These are your financials. So these are all your contracts as we know it right now. And so going through this, we have it broken up into the capital improvement plan, the Stellar project, and the Veterans Parkway. So as you can see, a lot of the Veterans Parkway pieces have been complete. We have a few continuous. Utilities were expected to come out this year sometime, and I know the construction is the one that is roughly still going. It's going to go for 17 months as we know it. So you can see all the projects completed or not. We're going to keep the Veterans Way completed sections until we can complete that project completely. Any questions on the contracts or any updates that may be known? All right, continue on. This is your indebtedness page, just showing your 2014 revenue bond, which we're continuously working on. There's a lot of changes that happened with that bond, and just a lot of clarity that we're finding after working with Rick Hall and working closely to figure out exactly where that's going to go and what direction we're going to go with that soon. The other three funds are funds that are related to a city and county agreement with the 2007 water and revenue bonds. So those we're currently still working with. There's a very specific agreement with the city and county, and we are currently going through all those funds to make sure that this waterfall process is going correctly and you're not losing out any money in that situation. All right, and then your last page is your amortization schedule for the 2014 bond. There's a couple notes down at the bottom. So right now, the bank, it's First Financial, we noticed that they were using an incorrect way of calculating your interest. So we found out that we could save you a few $1,000s there. They currently have it as $2,046.78 credited back to the bond. We believe that actually is a larger amount, approximately $4,800. So we are still working with the bank to make sure that you accredit it to your correct amount. And then lastly, with the 2014 bond, we spoke with Rick Hall and Mayor Marsh and finally got to an understanding of where we need to be on this bond. And we believe that there should be no future payments or no future prepayments on it. The regular scheduled payments will continue to happen. And there will be no draws made on this bond to pay for the project. There's sufficient money to be able to cover the rest of that project right there. And so, with that, are there any final questions? Just wanted to run through that real quick with you guys. I know that it's a lot of information to digest. I know you've seen it before, so I don't want to drown you out. But if there's any questions that you can think of later on, free to answer any of those by email. Thank you very much.
One question.
Okay.
Page 8, the financials, shows the expenditures for Veterans Parkway. Where does it show the percentage of NDOT money coming in?
So that page only shows the contract amount as you pay for it. The NDOT money coming in is actually on page 7. So on page 7, you can see the top line item, that's revenues, below beginning cash balance. So your very first one is federal state grants. So you can see how much you received to date from NDOT is that $1 million, and next to it is the projected amount.
Okay.
So that is your NDOT revenue. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Next item on our agenda is approval of claims, and we have those 3 claims that David mentioned. One is from American Structure Point for the capital improvement plan they're working on of $16,450. And then two claims from the Reedy Financial Company, one from July, one for August. July was $2379.16 and August was $4577.50. So our total to be paid out of 802 is $23,406.66. Is there a motion to pay our bills?
So moved.
Thank you, Ken, for the motion. Mr. Dornick made a motion and Mr. Wenzel second. Any discussion? Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Anything else from board members?
Judy, welcome aboard.
Judy, do you have all of our email addresses? Okay. Good. Hearing no other business, our next meeting will be on Thursday, October 15th at 6:30. Third Thursday of the month, October 15th at 6:30 right here. So having no other business to conduct, we will adjourn our meeting. Thank you all for coming.